wanted for freedom. Fight for justice and drive. An advocate, not a terminator. With the awesome power of his mind. He speaks for the devil and red.
This is the Fan Without Fear Completist Retrospective. My name is Nick, the Fan Without Fear. Let's take a look at what's on our radar for today. Daredevil Yellow, books 4, 5, and 6. Last time on the show, we looked at the first 3 issues of 2001's Daredevil Yellow, the first modern retelling of Daredevil's classic origin story. If you missed that episode, the link is in the description. Now we're going to pick up where we left off and look at issues 4, 5, and 6, beginning with Book 4.
Jeff Loeb and Tim Sale used the first 3 issues of Daredevil Yellow to establish the young Matt Murdock and his dearest friends, Karen Page and Foggy Nelson. Now, as more superpowered characters enter the story, we really get a sense of the great pains Loeb and Sale took to glaze over or otherwise eliminate the more juvenile elements of the original books in favor of a more adult take on Daredevil's origin. If you haven't watched my last episode, I gave a spoiler warning. Daredevil Yellow contains one potential spoiler to anyone who is new to Daredevil comics. You've been warned. As a retelling of Daredevil's origin, this story is narrated by Matt, writing a letter to his lost love, Karen Page. Book 4, Never Lead With Your Left, opens with Daredevil in combat with Spider-Man villain Electro. The colors by Matt Hollingsworth are particularly beautiful and vibrant during this sequence. The silliness of being launched into space in a rocket has been omitted from this version of the Electro story. Also, Daredevil defeats the high-voltage criminal by triggering a sprinkler system rather than by dropping a fire curtain. In one memorable edition, we even see Daredevil stop to flirt with the Rockettes. Foggy, who is not as good with the ladies, is having difficulty getting Karen's attention. The trio of friends go bowling together, and while Matt appears to have trouble with the game, Foggy continues to strike out with Karen. Against the advice of his friends, Matt attends the execution of Slade. The reality of the electric chair is a stark contrast to an exciting battle with Electro, and Matt is confronted by the consequences of bringing the guilty to justice and the smell of death. With the business of his father's murder finally settled, Matt finds he is nonetheless at his loneliest. His best friend Foggy unknowingly chooses this time to reveal he wants to ask Karen to marry him. Book 5, Against the Ropes, seems especially intent on explaining the owl's erratic behavior for a modern audience. Bizarre points from the classic story have been removed, and a mysterious but underdeveloped character has been added. In his new motivation, the owl has taken Karen prisoner to coerce legal services from Nelson and Murdoch as a type of ransom. The character of Grace, who visited the law office in Book 3, is revealed to have worked for the owl all along. But this plot point ultimately doesn't go anywhere. I wasn't joking last time when I said I don't know who this woman is. It feels like this is some kind of cameo or an allusion to another story, but I don't recognize her. If you know who this Grace is supposed to be, please send me a tweet or write to us in the comments. Daredevil stretches his senses to locate Karen and rescues her from the oversized birdcage, which to my delight was not cut from the Silver Age draft. This leads to some great romantic dialogue and flirtation, which very effectively establishes a love interest between these two future paramours. Once Karen is free, the action between the Owl and Daredevil is exciting and well plotted. As the fight moves from land and air to under the water, the art gets extremely intense. Back at the office, Foggy overhears Matt and Karen discussing the young woman's exciting rescue and flirting. Jealous, Foggy abandons his hopes to propose. Book 6, The Final Bell, is another story of Karen being kidnapped and Daredevil chasing after her like the princess and Super Mario. The major plot points of the Purple Man's first appearance play out exactly the same as in Daredevil number 4, but now the story ends with a focus on the budding romance between our heroes, during which Karen inspires the devil to start wearing red. Peace is restored at the law office as Karen makes it clear she has no romantic interest in Matt nor Foggy because she has scheduled a date to paint the town red with Daredevil himself. Though her 1960s origins were a throwback to old romance comics, and she was often relegated to be a damsel in distress, Karen Page would go on to see quite a lot of character development in the decades to come. By the end of her character arc, she was one of the most independent and strong women in comic books. I'm a little nervous with the success of the Netflix TV series and the recent flashback sequence in the Daredevil Volume 4 special, number 15.1. There may be people at Marvel who feel Karen Page is due for a resurrection. As a longtime fan, I really hope they just let Karen rest. During the conclusion of his final letter to Karen, Matt explains this story has been told many times, but this is the way he chooses to remember. As a fan, I echo this sentiment. Most comic book readers will tell you without a pause, Daredevil's definitive origin story is 1993's The Man Without Fear by Frank Miller and John Romita Jr. While I love that excellent book, Daredevil Yellow is always the first story to which my mind runs when I think of the earliest days of the Daredevil legend. In modern comic books, and in Matt Murdock's story in particular, it is easy to be overwhelmed by darkness. Jeff Loeb and Tim Sale's Daredevil Yellow masterfully uses the framework of darkness and loss, which runs through Matt's life, to showcase the brightest and most hopeful aspects of choosing to be a hero. Through the love and support of the good people who will always pass through our lives, we need never be yellow. We can be men and women without fear.
This concludes our look at Daredevil Yellow. Make sure you like and subscribe so you don't miss more content from the fan without fear. Until next time, always live without fear.